This is Seventh Generation Warfare, and I'm your current host, John Nelson. In this episode, we'll be looking at career changes. Much like the episode on strategic relocation, a career change is a very pivotal point in somebody's life if they are to undertake it. So, in the strategic relocation video, I talked about moving your family and how that can help uh, secure the protection of their will. In this, it's a little less of an immediately obvious connection to protecting your descendants' wills because it's a career change. It's something that you are doing personally. Typically, your kids are not very involved in your professional life, but no doubt the the connection between home life and work life is strong. If you have a bad day at home, you bring it to work. If you have a bad day at work, you can bring it home, etc. Also, just that the sheer amount of time and energy one commits to a career speaks volumes about who they are and what they value. And those are the values that will get that will transcend generations, that you'll pass on. And you might not even realize it, but if you're in a shady industry doing shady things, your kids are probably going to pick up some of those shady practices. Even if you're the most virtuous guy in that shady industry, just the association with it might have some unintended consequences for your children. So, when looking at a potential career change, one of the biggest things to think about for seventh generation warfare is, are you leading by example, or in your career, whatever it is, regardless of whether you're looking for a career change, are you setting a positive example for your kids? And a couple things to consider depending on where you might be socioeconomically, or with emotional development, or various other aspects of your life could determine greatly the condition in which you find yourself in professionally. So I'm not going to try and do a broad stroke. Um, but for example, there's there's a lot of people out there who have been treated like garbage their entire lives by their family, you know, the generations before. And so they take being treated like garbage into their professional life, and they work for abusive people in abusive environments. And so for them, they got to break that cycle. They can't be seen being treated like garbage. They can't continue to learn the language of being abusive to people, because they might bring it home and be abusive to their kids, or demand things from their kids, or there's plenty of employers out there that don't give a shit about your will, what you want to do and how you want to do it. And so if that's the mentality of the people around you, it will infect you, and that's not the mentality you want to give to your kids. So if you're in one of those type of roles, you probably want to find a job that treats you well, treats you with dignity, treats you with respect. Moving up a little bit higher, the next reason you might want to do a career change from a seventh generation perspective is if you're not really meeting your full potential. So you might be you might be you might be underutilized in your job, and that will eat away at you. You need the capacity, you need the ability to create and do things and build, regardless of what industry you're in, I think. So if you're just treading water at your job, if you're just there counting the hours, um, and collecting your paycheck, you're not going to get that sense of purpose, from your work. And so that might be another reason to consider a career change. And this is more of a sixth generation warfare thing, to get that sense of fulfillment in your life. But we're also talking about leading by example, and showing your kids that they should be meeting their full potential as well. And all along, just in general, I promote the idea of entrepreneurship or self employment. I think that's where you can really get the best financial footing and meet your best potential. But me myself, I left self-employment, so it's not a steadfast rule. Another reason why you might want to consider a career change and live by example is if you have the opportunity to be the change you want to see in the world. It's one thing to not meet your potential, but your potential might be towards an effort that you don't really care about, that doesn't bring you fulfillment. So if something comes along and offers you like a good social cause, or something that will steward the community, or that offers to change or fix the ills in the world, that is a very good reason to change careers, because showing a sense of selflessness, ultimately what we're looking to do in seventh generation warfare is get our kids, the crux of it is getting our kids to be seventh generation warfare fighters as well. And what they need to do is to live selflessly, so to protect the will of their children, right? The seventh generation warfare thing is a selfless act in order to secure the will of your descendants. So if you can demonstrate selflessness and get fulfillment from it, it's kind of it's kind of a contradictory thing. Can you really be selfless if you are deriving value from it? That's a philosophical question for another time. I'm just trying to explain that if you can model for your kids that you are putting others above yourself, that's going to be very productive in getting them to pick up the flag of seventh generation warfare. So those are some reasons to change careers and what kind of examples you want to set. Another component of career changes is the ready side up. And ready side up, as discussed, is kind of more of the prepping side of seventh generation warfare and sixth generation warfare, where you want to protect yourself from personal, natural, societal disasters. And there's 7 classifications: food, water, shelter, security, economics, community, and fitness. All those things you want to have readiness, resiliency, and self-reliance in those classifications so that no sudden misfortune can bend your will. And in the case of seventh generation warfare, can't bend the will of your descendants. Changing careers is a very vulnerable thing to do, especially if you could be taking, especially in that latter scenario I gave of being selfless, that just might come with a pay cut. You might not every career change has to be for greater material wealth. Ultimately, a lot of seventh generation warfare is not focused on the material. It's focused more on the spiritual, the values, and things like that. So there is a consideration there, but if it's giving you the fulfillment, if it's giving the positive example, and it isn't like putting you in a completely susceptible position where your will can be bent, then it's an overall good from a ready side up perspective. And then the other side of that is the spiritual fitness perspective. But if you are, one, getting out from a abusive employer, 2, becoming better utilized or meeting your potential, or 3, being the change you want to see in the world, those are all going to carry pretty profound spiritual growth with them. So from a ready side up perspective, that's kind of how you want to look at it. Are there jobs or industries that are good or bad for 7th generation warfare? The short answer is no. You can't look too broadly at any kind of thing. You don't want to be prejudiced against a specific career But that being said, there are some things that do embody better values for your kids, I think. I grew up with the most hardworking person I knew ever known as a father. He did roofing, and he was very successful financially as a roofer, but the hardest working guy I ever know. I got into construction, and I learned the power of creation through building. That is a divine power, creation. That being said, there's a lot of junky people in the construction industry. But if you're in the construction industry because you can't do any other career, because maybe you dropped out of high school, you're a felon, a drug addict, something like that, then yeah, you're not going to be passing positive examples on to your kids. But if you're in the construction industry because you're hardworking or you love the power of creation, those are good examples you can set for your kids. And so, uh, you know, an example of something that an industry that could be good or bad would be, say, the medical industry. You want to fix people that are broken, or bring them health, but there's plenty of aspects of the medical industry that are corrupt or broken. The healthcare system, no doubt, there's not politicians, but businessmen at the top who are looking at the dollar sign and not the well-being of their potential clients. That might be why that CEO of United Healthcare got shot. Maybe. There could also be interests who push or promote the use of drugs that aren't necessary, or for unnecessary causes. Another industry that could have good or bad would be, say, education. It's noble to want to teach, but I think maybe it was in Who is Seventh Generation Warfare 4, I spoke about coaches and teachers who are looking to indoctrinate children. So that's not good. What is your intent, and what kind of example are you setting for your children? The military. A lot of good people are in the military because they see the paradigm of the sheep, the sheepdog, and the wolf, right? And they want to put themselves between the sheep and the wolf. They want to be the sheepdog. They want to protect. This goes for police, law enforcement in general as well. But if you're a pawn for the government system, the politicians, and you're doing horrors around the world or horrors in a city, as may be the case with the police force, what kind of values are you setting for your children? Might a career change be worthwhile? Marketing. I don't have a whole lot of good things to say about marketing. In general, marketing might be a career that is pretty much wholly against the seventh generation warfare, because as we discussed about fifth generation warfare is propaganda, control over one's trying to win influence over somebody else's mind, right? That's what marketing is. You are trying to convince somebody of something that they might not want themselves. You're trying to subvert their will. So if you're in the marketing industry, kind of being there, you're kind of saying anyone is open to be manipulated by me. That's my job. I am to manipulate you into thinking you need this product or this service. So potentially worth a career change there. And then, maybe another industry is banking. I'm pretty critical of banking. There is a need to store wealth and to have capital move around society. And those are going to be banker people who are going to fulfill that. But the current paradigm of banking is pretty corrupted. It's pretty predatory with debt and loans, in my opinion. So what kind of examples are you setting? If you're a banker and you're earning interest off of money that you didn't even do anything to earn. You created out of nothing through the fractional reserve banking system, and you feel entitled to somebody else's labor and time, and you're putting them further in debt, making them more beholden to you when you haven't actually done anything, haven't utilized your power of creation and done anything productive for society. It might be worth considering a career change there. But like I was trying to give positive and negative examples of each, and this is for you to decide for your 7th generation warfare. When it comes to career change, you might feel, perhaps this video is promoting the idea or giving you the idea that you should consider thinking more deeply about your profession. You should think deeply about your profession. I'm not telling anyone to change careers. But you might also feel that an opportunity might never come. I had felt that in the past. I felt that many times. And I really was kind of resigning myself to never having a career change again. But it did happen. Which is why this video was spurred about. Ultimately, that's a defeatist attitude. And you'll want to check your 6th generation warfare. Why you feel opportunity is shut off from you. You should be where you want to be, doing what you want to do. And, there's seasonal aspects, there's, specific timing or things that happen in your life that will make you not feel as fulfilled with your work or feel grumpy or dream of greener pastures. It doesn't mean you have to go and just quit your job and try to figure it out. Don't do anything dramatic. But you should feel the opportunity that you could reinvent yourself if you wanted to. That there is no human capacity really that's off limits to you, if that makes sense. So certainly, if you're the examples I gave at the beginning of this video, if you're in one of those positions, then yes, start thinking about what it is you might do, and be open to the ideas, things that come up that you were not thinking about. Don't get steadfast that you have to design it, because I know for me personally, the opportunity was basically handed to me, not by like a human, like somebody didn't, hey John, I like your style, I want to give you the job. That's not how it went. The circumstances in my life aligned in such a way where I went from being, yeah, I'm probably doing construction for the rest of my life, to, holy shit, I need to take this other opportunity. And that opportunity, nothing remotely close to that opportunity had ever crossed my mind. So be open to things when they come. One thing I probably should have mentioned earlier, and so this is kind of a footnote, I left construction, and one of the things I was dreaming to do in my 7th generation warfare was bring my kids to work with me. We are homeschooling, so it's easy to do so. I figured when my boys were about 9 years old, I'd bring them onto the job site. They'd be old enough not to chop their hands off with a saw or get electrocuted or something like that. And they could either help and learn work ethic, or they could be in the corner studying or reading. Why I mention this is your job, I mentioned at the beginning that there typically isn't a strong connection between one's professional life and one's home life. And so the connection between 7th generation and one's career might not be as immediate, as obvious. Certainly your kids are going to pick up those values from what your work is, but you can shape that a lot more by actively bringing your kids into what you do. When I was a kid, there was the Really, it was designed as bring your daughter to work day because the powers that be in the school system was trying to promote women entering the workforce instead of being mothers, which is against seventh generation warfare. It's trying to promote sterile women in cubicles, getting getting hit on by their bosses, and it's not overly healthy for a family dynamic. But anyways, some of us took the take your daughter to work day, and we twisted it to get a day out of work or day out of school ourselves. So it was a take your child to work day, and I went in like sixth grade to go work roofing with my father. Later on, I'd work summers with him, but the point is, uh, getting that exposure of your kids in your work. Hopefully, you can do it more than just the one day a school year that the public school permits you to take your kid out of school to bring to work with you. Hopefully, you can get your kid more engaged in your labor. If you have any control over your schedule at your workplace, perhaps you can design it so that you can work a weekend or something and you can bring your kid to the office regularly on a weekend. Or if you're self employed, there's no limit to how you can get your kids engaged in your work. There's also tax benefits that come from that because you can pay your kids a good amount of money tax free. But I'm not a tax professional and I haven't looked into that in a while. But yeah, don't let your career be be divorced from your home. Make make Find a career that you are happy discussing and want to discuss in front of your children, that you want to share with your children, that talking about what it is you are doing out in the world for 8 hours a day when you're not at home with them. Why is daddy leaving house every day? Well, he's going and he's crushing it, doing something that's very pivotal to society. Whether it's hugely pivotal or not, you can promote yourself a little bit and talk it up, but you want them to get a sense of wow, I like what daddy's doing outside the home. I understand as a child that what he's doing is important, and I want to help him. I want to learn what he's doing. All those sort of things are going to help your seventh generation immensely. So that pretty much concludes all I wanted to say. This is seventh generation warfare, and this episode was about career changes.